Well, hi everybody. I've sure had a great time this weekend and hope I can make it back here again next year. Throughout this weekend, I've heard a couple different people do Marty Robbins' song or poem about Old Red. And that always reminds me of a poem I got from a young man from Stagecoach, Nevada, about 15 years ago at a cowboy gathering up in Grand Junction, Colorado. Kid's name's Dan Schmidt, and Dan and his father Paul used to travel around to all these gatherings. And I thought Dan was a fantastically talented young man. And at the time we knew him, he was about 20 years old. But he did a poem that I really liked a lot, and I talked to him about it on the break, and he told me he wrote that when he was 16. So I asked him if he would mind sending me the words to it, and he did, and this is it, and it's called The Bet. Well, it was the month of June by the light of the moon when this story to me was told of a man, Sam Brown, that just hit town, about 35 years old, with his mustache thick and his Levi's slick and his eyes too narrow to blink. He lit up a cig and put up his rig and then hit the bar and started to drink. Well, he sat on that stool till his thirst was cool, but his pride, as he drank, it growed, till he bragged to Chuck Steller, said, "Look here, feller, I'm a man that can't be throwed." Now, Chuck Steller, it's true, was a bronc buster too, and he bucked out some horses that day, and then rode into town about the same time as Brown to drink up some of his pay. And he said, sounding tight, but not wanting to fight, "I got one I know you can't ride. He'll throw you down hard, believe me, pard. I know, 'cause I've already tried." For 20 straight days he stood there and grazed, and each day I climbed on his back, but I hit the ground before we ever got round the pen and back to the shack. Well, Sam says, "Now, Chuck, if I let him buck till he stops and I'm still on his back, what do I get out of this little bet?" And Chuck says, "Well, the horse and new tack. But I'm telling you now, I don't see how you'll stay on him for the ride. So I'll ask of you that horse of yours too, when you hit the ground on your side." Well, all the boys gathered round when they heard the sound of this bet that brewed in the air. And when the time came to ride, they were right by their side to make sure it all went fair. When they came to the place, Sam saw what he'd face, and he turned about 3 shades of green. 'Cause there in that pen, looking rotten as sin, was the meanest bronc Sam ever seen. But he picked up his cack that he had on the back of that horse Chuck was sure he'd win, cinched his spurs down tight, and got ready to fight that bronc that they call Sin. Well, the moon had started to shine, and it was 9:30 when Sam nodded his head to begin. So the boys turned them out, and they all gave a shout as they watched old Sam and Sin. That Sin came alive with a sunfish dive, but Sam just stuck right there. He fanned and he slapped and he pawed and he whapped, but Sin just didn't care. And they went on like this in dusty bliss, around and around that pen. Didn't seem that long that it went on, but when they checked, it was almost 10. Half an hour they had rode and shared the load, as each took the upper hand lead. Sin couldn't throw Sam, try what he can, but Sam couldn't tame that steed. And then Sin, with a flare, just stopped in the air as suddenly as the start, and then came down dead on the ground with one last beat of his heart. Well, they pulled old Sam out from under that jam, but he wasn't moving at all. Doc said the wreck had busted his neck, and there's nothing he could do about the fall. Yeah, it was the month of June by the light of the moon. I heard the tale of that bronc named Sin, and that man, Sam Brown, that rode into town and never rode out again. I thought that was pretty good for a 16-year-old. I still can't write anything that good. I've also heard a number of songs and poems about coyotes. Where I come from, We didn't pronounce that last E. We just called them coyotes. And this is a true story that happened when we lived up in Grand Junction about an argument that wound up in court about the proper pronunciation of that word. So I wrote this little poem about it, and this is called Coyote Creek. Well, out in Grand Junction, Colorado, just below Grand Mesa's peak, they built a new elementary school that they named Coyote Creek. At least that's what the principal said. And the superintendent said the same, so how could there be a problem over a simple school name? Well, the secretary was a local gal, and she said, no, that's not right. Around here, we pronounce that Coyote Creek. And that's what started the fight. The principal kept telling her to say it his way, but she was plumb determined he couldn't tell her what to say. He said, when you're on your own time, we don't tell you how to speak. But when you answer the phone here at school, you'll say Coyote Creek. She just flat refused to change, and every time she got a call, she'd say Coyote Creek Elementary. Drove the principal right up the wall. So he gave her a written order that she would say Coyote Creek if she still wanted to have a job at the end of next week. But she said, you can't make me mispronounce a word when I know better. And so the next week in the mail, she got a dismissal letter. The principal told her she was fired for insubordination. But she quickly filed a lawsuit, and she claimed discrimination. She said that she was being harassed for her regional pronunciation, and she had a constitutional right to be safe from retaliation. Well, of course, the newspaper picked up the story and spread it all over town. The school board was becoming a laughingstock, trying to calm things down. Well, the county commissioner stepped in then to see what they could do, but neither side would give an inch, so it looked like their options were few. But they held a series of hearings that just drug things out for weeks, while the whole town was laughing as they argued about cricks and creeks. Coyotes or coyotes, nobody really cared. They just wanted this thing settled, and they wanted to be fair. Well, finally the secretary found an answer that everybody thought was cool. She just traded jobs with the secretary from Red Rock Middle School. This is a poem I like, written by Ken Graydon. This is a story out of old California about a noted horse thief that terrorized the Southern California countryside back during the Spanish colonial days. And this is called The Honor of Julian Chavez. Well, the stories come down from the old ones that sometimes when the full moon is bright, the spirit of Julian Chavez can be heard as he rides through the night. A clatter of hoofs in the courtyard, the sound of a horse running fast and then fading away in the distance. A feeling that someone has passed. Now, the mention of Julian Chavez is not taken lightly, senor, for his was a large reputation. El Ladrón de Caballo, Mayor. Better known as Chavez el Rojo for the shade of his hair and mustache. A horse thief renowned for his cunning. There was no one more daring or rash. To the rancho they call Buena Vista. As daylight declined in the west, a lone caballero came riding through gates never closed to a guest. In the spirit of old California, mi casa, su casa, they would say, for a stranger was always welcomed, and never was one turned away. And this man wore the mark of a sheriff, a man to be trusted on sight. So a chair was pulled up to the table, and a room was prepared for the night. And in the morning, the stranger admired the livestock and the orchard so green. Then preparing to leave, said, forgive me, but there's one horse that I've not seen. A magnificent stallion, they told me, a thoroughbred, one of the best. I had hoped for a chance to admire him, but he was not in the stall with the rest. No, it's true, he is not with the others. He sleeps in the house at my side, lest Chavez el Rojo should steal him, for he covets the horse that I ride. Then loud came the laugh of the stranger as he bowed once again to his host. I am Julian Chavez el Rojo, the one that you fear, was his boast. And I came here in search of that stallion, to steal him and ride him away. But you fed me and housed me in friendship. That leaves me a debt to pay. So by the honor of Julian Chavez, I swear to you now as I stand, neither I nor my men will molest you. We will not take your stallion so grand. Then he mounted and wheeled in the courtyard. Hasta luego, in a flash of a spur, and Julian Chavez departed, at ease in the saddle and sure. But in the fall, at the roundup of cattle, vaqueros from nowhere appeared, skilled riders and herders and ropers to help with the tally of steers. And their leader would not hear of payment as the riders departed once more. It was Julian Chavez who sent us, in thanks for your kindness, senor. Now, one of my favorite poems was written by my friend Dale Page, who lives in Oklahoma these days, and he'll be appearing at our Grand Junction gathering in May. And he wrote this poem. He said he was working, he spent the summer at a lion camp up in northern New Mexico, and he wrote this poem called Once We Were Kings. Well, it was half a day's ride to this cabin door where I spent my 18th year. There's spur marks still in the old wood floor, but the crew's no longer here. So it's silent now where our noisy gang once gathered to lie and spar, or to ponder life while some waddy sang to his battered old guitar. All the bunk bed slats have long since been burned in the hungry cast iron stove. And in the corner there lies a chair upturned with the leather seat that I wove. And there an old grass robe and horsehair reins hang forgotten on the wall. That old Fraser rig won't be rode again. Whose it was, I can't recall. And through the fly-specked, broken-out window there stands an empty pine pole pen. All the broncs are gone, and I don't know where. What's worse, I don't know when. But the boys who rode for their meager wage that was thrown away each week were part of a wild and woolly age that gave way to mild and meek. I can see us now around the goosey's fire when the herd was bedded down. We swore our oath we would not retire to a lesser life in town. We toasted our lives with strong black brew while we dined on beef and beans. And we looked down on the suit and necktie crew who don't know what living means. For we rule the world from our leather thrones, cinched atop a half-broke mount. We spent our youth as kings, not drones. We were rich in the things that count. When they tally dreams that can still come true, we may find our herds are short, but we won't regret what we didn't do when they stand that final sort. For a few short years, we were pleased to live as the luckiest of men. We enjoyed the best that life can give, because we were cowboys then.